Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon as we wind down the final word this week for the Mr Sheffield Shield. Business end, 2 rounds to go.
Somebody pointed this out to me. I'm not sure who did it. It was tremendous work. Someone's done a thread, a Twitter thread, which is Fran Drescher as the nanny dressed as each Australian rules football club, each AFL club. Like they've found an outfit that matches.
Very good.
It is such an overlap of your interests that I'm
Please dig it out for me and send it to me. Well, just to give you a sense of where things were when the round started to begin.
Yep.
Tasmania 39, Victoria 35.
I've pulled it up
West
right
Australia.
Here she is dressed as Adelaide. Very good. We've got a Brisbane Lions one there. We've got a dark blue Carlton dress.
Carlton, Collingwood.
Collingwood, the checks, I'm not sure that quite works.
It's okay. They used the checks in the Lightning Premiership in '96 from memory.
The Bombers one works. That's
Bombers
a real
with
Don
the
the Sash. Yep. Freo.
The shitfish. Freo.
Correct. I've never heard that before.
That
Geelong one, that does look like what a Geelong outfit would have been in the 90s, where it's all kind of mashed up together.
Yeah, I think they wore that might be like they use that in Heritage Round when they try and throw back to the late 90s pre-season jumpers and so on.
The big collars and the long sleeves.
Is that meant to be Hawthorn?
We've got Gold Coast.
The Suns.
GWS. Yep. I mean, this is quite good, actually. The Hawthorn one doesn't work.
That's meant to be the jockey outfit. Maybe that is the famous 95 strip.
Oh, the Melbourne
one's bang on.
That's perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Big red V. Love that. North, that's more a Geelong.
Yeah, they could have flipped Geelong and North in hindsight.
It's a slightly lighter blue, I suppose. Port Adelaide got the teal.
Get real, that's not teal, that's aqua.
Richmond in a tiger print dress. Yeah, okay, I'll cop that. The Saints one, spot on with the spots. This probably doesn't make great audio because we're looking at images, but Sydney kind of works. So that's a sort of 1900s kind of vibe.
West Coast looks like the kind of it's the blue and gold that Anna Kournikova used to get around for a long time in.
It's more final word blue and gold. It's more that sort of lighter sky blue. So maybe we could claim that can be the final word Fran Drescher outfit. And I'm glad that's come to our attention.
The doggies to finish.
Yeah, no red in the doggies outfit though. So, but I'd say 10 out of the 16 are pretty good.
I reckon if Fran Drescher, Union legend, knew that this was a thing on Twitter, she might just start wearing dresses that are aligned with Australian rules football clubs.
Yeah, well, of course, she also a big cricket fan, grew up near Jamaica, Queens. Went to school with a bunch of cricketers. Todd Davey is the one who's done that work. Thank you, Todd, for your contribution.
Okay. It's an important one. Okay, where are we?
Mr Sheffield.
Mr Sheffield. So WA 32, New South Wales 30. So those 4 teams grouped together, I reckon, by my math, any of them can make it. Then Queensland 24, SA 23 to round out the 6. Inconvenient timing for us to record this now, but as you said before, we have got the chance to get most of the games through. At Silverwater, out at the prison there, South Australia, I'm going to stick with that.
South Australia landing the chopper in the yard.
I'm going to stick with that. Yeah, that's right.
That's where it happened, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
Earth Boy.
What a great song.
Whose song is our intro song. Has a
Long
song called
Loud Hours.
Long Loud Hours.
That's an amazing track as well. I absolutely love it.
On the record. It's on Smokey's Haunt, isn't it? That album. He put a new album out. Well, I guess it's last year now, but 2023, a few months ago, which is an absolute belter. Look him up on your streaming platforms.
Final word
or
guest
buy
as
his stuff.
One of the first interviews we did with the camera on.
Yeah,
it's on YouTube and on the podcast feed from early 2019. We did it at his studio.
That's right. At Elephant Track Studio in Marrickville.
So at Silverwater, South Australia are well behind New Zealand. New Wales.
South Africa.
It's been a long week. You could count my hours of sleep. It's roughly about 20 since I got
New Zealand are doing the MCC in 1930, having 2 test teams
playing
at once.
Exactly. SA made 287. McSweeney's 53 came from 178 balls, which stood out. He's having a good year, but strike rate of 29. Ben Menenti, 71 down the list. Chris Green and Jack Nisbet, 3 each for the Blues.
I like that Chris Green's getting to play first-class cricket now.
Yeah, quite a lot. He's played the whole season. New South Wales, in reply, 465 for 8. They hadn't declared overnight, although they might have by the time we're recording this. So 181 ahead. Daniel Hughes, 114, but Ollie Davies, 116. Now, this is getting interesting. He's turning heads. I mean, it's only his second first-class 100, but he's averaged 64 across the season. In excess of 500 Shield runs. Should be nowhere near the conversation. You shouldn't get in the conversation after 2 tons, but you're allowed to put him on a list and think about a player like that. So South Australia, you've kindly brought up
Let's actually look at the live
score. They declared at 5-10 for 8, so they batted on for another half an hour this morning on day 4. They've given themselves the better part of a day to secure full points, and if they do get full points out at the jail, they can they can knock Queensland over next week. They might go from last to finalist in the space of a year. And they lost the first 2 games of this season as well. That'd be a dramatic turnaround for New South Wales. So
they've already knocked over the Chook out cheaply for 2, Jake Fraser-McGurk, and Kyle Brazel, who sounds like a crypto entrepreneur or something. Like he's got an account on Threads where he's like, "I'll teach you how to change your life in 14 days."
Yeah, it sounds like the sort of thing you get done at the beautician.
Wake up at 4 a.m., drink a liter of psyllium husk, do 700 press-ups on your thumbs. I'm Kyle Brazel.
Speaking of Queensland, they're getting smashed up by WA at Perth. So the Whackers made 310. Banger made a duck, unfortunately. Bangers, as they call it.
Cameron Bangers Croft.
Jaden Goodwin, another youngster, 22-year-old left-handed batsman. His maiden century, batting at number 3. Inglis, 47. More on him in a sec. Later in the game. Wildermuth top scored in Queensland's reply. They only made 170, so a huge first innings deficit. Corey Rocchiccioli, 4 for 54, 34 in the season. He's had a good go of it. I know that Australia are very clear about their pecking order with spinners. It's Nathan Lyon, it's Todd Murphy, and but Rocchiccioli, along with Kuhnemann, they might be there and thereabouts if they ever needed to take 3 or 4 on an overseas tour. I think in Sri Lanka next year they would probably take 4 spinners to Sri Lanka. I mean, maybe Maxwell could be part of that too.
Been bowling pretty badly lately. Like he seems to be having that problem that players have sometimes, where they get into the Test team and then once they're out, it just rattles them a bit. It throws things around. It tosses the furniture around the cabin, and they're not sure what to do. And he keeps getting blocked from playing like grade cricket, playing first grade, and just getting bulk overs because the CA people are saying, "Oh no, we've got to manage his bowling loads and all the rest of it."
I think I've seen enough from Todd Murphy that I don't doubt anything you just said, Dan. He's so good that.
Well, I know he is. It's just he is struggling at the moment.
Yeah,
he's been struggling this season with his actual. Physical form, with like the way the ball's coming out, the way he's arriving at the crease. He doesn't look like someone who's comfortable in his bowling action. Noted.
I must admit I haven't watched a lot of the Shield streams this year because I'm mostly in the other time zone. Anyway, WA second time around, 307 for 7 declared. Inglis, as we mentioned at the top of the show, 136 not out from 165 balls. That would have been difficult reading for Alex Carey when he woke up after 2 poor dismissals at Wellington. Let's just say that.
Get caught at cover twice in a match.
The first one was soft, and the second one was stupid.
Yeah,
and I like Carey a lot, and he would agree. By the way, he would agree. I'm sure he would say, that was soft and not well thought out.
Soft and stupid.
And you're allowed to play soft shots and stupid shots. By the way, that's an occupational hazard when you're a cricketer. But it's just unfortunate it happened in the same Test match. When the other bloke, Inglis, is rattling off an unbeaten 100 at roughly the same time. Queensland set 450 odd overnight. They were 56 for 1. What are they?
56 for 1. I don't think.
They're playing in Perth, so that'll start soon. Rocchiccioli got the breakthrough last night.
Bryce Street. She lives on Bryce Street. He's out.
WA have got the Vicks at the Juno next week. I'm going to try and go next week to the Junction for at least a day of that. So
you'll probably make 100.
Could be something.
That's what happens. You just walk through the gates, you're done up.
It could be an elimination final if you think about it. It could be that. If results break, now Tassie have won, we'll come to this in a sec, it could be that Victoria and... If New South Wales don't win, it could be down to Victoria and WA, pending results. Anyway, as for the Vicks, they didn't get the grandstand finish. They didn't deserve it, really, when you consider that they were so far behind the game. Tassie made only 240 in the first innings. Sutherland 5 for 73 for the Vicks, their skipper. But Victoria all out 106. In just 32 overs, and with that logjam, it looks like it could have been season-ending stuff. And then, it's Gabe Bell, isn't it? 4 for 21. I'm not sure what he finished with in the second dig. 3 for something, I think it looks like. But 38 wickets at 17 for the season before I plugged into what happened there today. So just about top of the pops on that measure. Then Tasmania in their second dig made 307. Bo Webster, 167 not out from 180 balls against Siddle, O'Neill, Perry, Sutherland, Murphy and Short. That is a very, very strong bowling lineup, well suited to bowling at Belrive. But he's batted clearly very well to finish with 167 not. And that has him leading the country, Bo Webster. 840 runs, 70, 3 centuries. And to put that in context, Bancroft's in second spot with 704 runs, so clearly leading on that front. At 30, with modest numbers, you just don't think you're going to have a season like this. I mean, you could have a perfectly reasonable career till age 35, and play across the 3 formats and have a perfectly reasonable living as well out of the game, and finish up and shake hands with your teammates and say thanks for being part of my life.
Right.
Instead, he's probably going to finish leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield. I have no context around whether he's been looked at the higher honours in the past. I don't believe he has, because why would he have been? But this will mean at least he's in some conversation somewhere, deserves to be. His average overall in first-class cricket's only 35, so yeah, this is comfortably the season of his life. And as you mentioned before, the Vicks were set for 42. Not the record, by the way, and we've done the record in story time before, where they...
But it's those 10th wicket partnerships. Like, it's just been a bizarre week for 10th wicket partnerships. You've got Hazelwood and Green here in the test. You've got that one with, what was it, 167 not, with the number 11 providing support. And then the one in the Ranji quarter-final in Mumbai. So Mumbai, a pretty even game on the first innings. Mumbai make 384.
That's
Baroda make 348. Yes.
Prithvi Shaw, Rahane.
Yes, Rahane, Prithvi, Shardul Thakur, and Tushar Deshpande, who we'll come to in the third innings. So
6 for 9 at Cockermouth. That's Ben Stokes' old club, isn't it? You can read the interview with Hugh Jardine on the Daisy Cutter if that's your thing.
So when Shardul Thakur gets out in the third innings, I mean, they've made an okay score. They're 313 for 8 when he gets out. And then they're 337 for 9. And the last pair comes together, and from 337, they take the score up to 569.
Bloody hell.
They added over 200. They both made tons. So this is the second time ever in first-class cricket that the 10 and the 11 have made hundreds in the same innings. So Tushar Deshpande makes 123 at basically a runner ball, hits 8 sixes on the way. And Tanush Kotian, 120 not out, also at just about a runner ball with 4 sixes. They hit 24s between them. And they piled up a target of 606, and of course they didn't have time to bowl out Baroda, but they win it on first innings points, and they'll progress.
How about, I'm looking at the card over your shoulder here, how about Bhargav Butt? Don't know anything of him as a bowler. No. 52 overs, 7 maidens, 7 for 200. So, and did he take the last one? Let's have a look up the page again. He did not. Didn't. So he had 7 for before this partnership started.
About 7 for 60 or something.
He's probably thinking, I'm having a day of my life. I'll be telling the grandkids about this. He probably still will, but for different reasons.
Yep. Well, they would have expected to be chasing about 300 and would have thought themselves a chance to get it, given it's obviously a pretty decent batting track. But yeah, 10 and 11 with centuries in first-class cricket. Second time it's ever happened. I haven't found out when the other one is, but I'm sure I can for story time at some point.
Ranji Trophy semi-finals on at the moment. We might cover the final next week. But if you're wondering what's the record for a fourth innings successful chase, 506. Mentioned it was a story time thing a couple of years ago. The 91-92 Shield game where South Australia hauled that down against Queensland. So then Victoria, chasing 442. If you're going to do that, it needs to click. And tell you what, Nick Maddenson's clicked since returning to professional ranks from that horrible knee injury. Made, I think, is it 200 or 300s now? Either way, he's been in ripping form. 109 for him. A career that should not be over in terms of consideration for higher honours. He had that brief but skittish time as a Test cricketer, not through his own fault, but gets a rip snorter from Rabada under lights with the pink ball in his first Test innings. He gets told to. And it doesn't bat in the second innings because they win 2 down. Second Test match at the MCG was the unusual Test match where Australia were chasing declaration runs. Well, unusual in the sense that, so that was his third Test match, my apologies. And that's after Warner and Smith had rattled off hundreds and they were just trying to put the foot down. And the middle Test at Brisbane was a day-night Test match where, again, they were chasing quick runs and only batted once, I'm pretty sure. So, or maybe they didn't only bat once, but he only batted once himself. That would have been the Pakistan Test match where they ended up setting 490 or something.
Yeah, 490 to win. Yeah.
But anyway, the overarching here is that I hope that there's a world where Maddenson can find a way through. He averages in the 60s since moving from New South Wales to Victoria. Marcus Harris put on a stand of 178 with him for the first wicket. Then Harris is dismissed for 76, the first man down. But that's when the moment that could have rattled them, and this is quite late in the show to be discussing this, but we should. So, Harris is out, Pucovski walks in, second ball, ducks into a Riley Meredith bouncer. It's a horrible... anyone that's followed Will's career, and, we have done it since the start, how can you not? I interviewed him when he was a 18-year-old. to see him go down for his 12th concussion, it's prompting the kind of commentary that we've seen the last couple of times he's been not concussed, if that makes sense. The one with the football at the Adelaide Oval bit last year.
There's been unclear ones where he's worried that he has been concussed, but it's a bit, the information's erratic. The one at the second 11 game the other week was a case of that, where there was information saying that it wasn't a concussion, but then they were saying he had concussion symptoms later. So wasn't it? There's really no clear line on it.
And I want to be clear that we're not experts in this field, and we don't profess to be. So we're got to be careful how we talk about this, because it would be irresponsible for us to be too strident in our commentary, because there's mental health considerations. He's talked a lot about his depression, his anxiety as well, which is partly a function of being hit on the head so many bloody times. But Riley Meredith bowling at 140 plus. Don't know who it was. Someone said on Twitter last night, at some stage it's going to be daunting for bowlers too, bowling at Pucovski, because they're going to know that if they hit him in the head, which is something that can happen when you're bowling quickly in a competitive game of cricket, you can't just not bowl short at him. That would be that's not how the game works.
Yeah, if you sign up to come out to the middle, and we've had all of the debates in the past about whether you should ban bouncers and all the rest of it, which would fundamentally change how the game works, because every batter can just sit on the front foot and smash the ball. It could, but it would be a totally different game, and then I think you'd have to then tweak other rules in other ways to favour bowlers more, in order to try to compensate for that. You'd be fundamentally changing the game, but it is this different. It's the modern era is different because players don't try to evade the ball as much, whereas in an unprotected era, there was a lot more getting out the way of the short ball, and so it was intimidating, but players, their first thought was evade the ball, and then sometimes they would try to play the hook shot, but players evade the ball differently here, and the way that he did it was a case in point, where he just turned his head and almost ducked into it. That's not someone who's honed the technique of how to get out of the way of the ball as their first priority. It's like, oh shit, it's short, it's coming at me. And sort of allowing is almost accepting getting hit because you've got the helmet as protection.
I reckon it's more that he's hoping it's going to miss, and there is a technical thing there. Clearly, you can't be hit as many times without it being so. Dr. Peter Bruckner has been in the paper today talking to Mal Conn. He's the former Australian team doctor. He's been everywhere around the world, and he's been talking a lot about concussion, and recently, according to this newspaper report, and he's sort of talking about Angus Brayshaw, who very sadly had to retire last week for concussion reasons, and he also said what you did there around how infrequently batters got hit in the head in the pre-helmet era, and how, I suppose, at some subliminal level you are willing to carry a bit more risk when ducking, and thus more players get concussed because
you
more
just
players
face
are
up
hit
differently with a different set of priorities in the front of your mind.
Which isn't to say that helmets are making the game any less dangerous. I mean, obviously helmets on the whole are a crucial facing fast bowling, but on this specific subset, I get what he's saying, that in the pre-helmet era, and bowlers
I think
are
it's
quicker
just,
now,
if you're
so
wearing a
for the most
helmet, your first thought is to attack the short ball, whereas probably previously your first thought was to evade it. I don't know. I haven't faced 150 kilometre an hour bowling. I wouldn't have a clue.
Well, even, I mean, I reckon, it doesn't even need to be that quick either. I've faced 130 clicks, and like when you're facing bowling that, well, in that vicinity, and when you're facing bowling that's that quick, if you're not equipped for it, it is a harrowing experience, because you don't have a lot of control. You sit in the nets, as we often do for work, and stand behind practice. Bowlers in the 130s or thereabouts playing international cricket. And again, these are professionals, right? But at some level, when you get to bowlers that are about 150, it changes again. So anyway, it's a bit of a digression, but the Pucovski thing is a watching brief. You're going to see a lot of takes on it, and my personal view is that it's not helpful. Hot takes on this are not helpful.
Sure.
Will's a sensitive. He's experienced a lot, and I think just allowing things to play out the way they're going to play out in the fullness of time is a sensible course of action for our colleagues in the media and all the rest.
I was really affected by it. Like the vision is awful, and just seeing how distressed he is and how he hits the ground, and he's not knocked out or anything, but he's obviously so concerned. This is the part, so obviously, like you say, I don't have any medical expertise to talk about safety or otherwise, but I think that if you're playing in a sport where you're likely to get hit, and the consequence of you getting hit because you've got these pre-existing problems is that you have to be subbed out of a game every time, like basically this is what it means, is that any time he gets a clip on the helmet, if he keeps playing from now on at a high level, he'll have to be pulled out of the game. And I just don't see how, if you're a selector, you can keep picking a player who's got that vulnerability.
Well, you could bomb him out of the game, couldn't you? If you're playing a competitive test match, he's on top of you. You could play that game where you bowl. Sort of, I mean, obviously you can't bowl more than 2 genuine bounces per over, but you can bowl balls.
You can bowl 6 at the neck
and hope that he ducks into one or something like that. Yeah. That's really crude, but you could see a world where that could be considered on a bad day, where a side will do anything to gain some advantage. So, and this is the point of his career.
I find it hard to see how he can continue on the basis of that last one with how scrambled the technique was, how many times he's been hit before, and the consequences. You know, there are the potential bad consequences that is just speculation, but there are the immediate match consequences that he can't continue to play in matches after he's been hit.
And the sadness that's overlaid with this is that he makes that Shield 100 a couple of weeks ago, which is the first in a long time, and he speaks so confidently about his return. This follows the podcast he did with Whitey, which is recommended listening. I think we referred to that a couple of weeks ago. But the Pucovski, I genuinely think Pucovski will play Test cricket in the next 18 months, right? I don't think it's provided that there's a way through this. I think he's going to be back in that Test team. They clearly want him in that Test team to be in the next group that come through.
But I wonder how much they want him. That, like, yes, he's a good player, but also because people do feel so desperately sorry for the horrific run of luck that he's had as well.
There is that, but they also see him as a generational player, right? Given the way so young, he was so prolific. Like, you don't do that so young unless you've got special gifts of concentration and so on. Anyway, it happened, and it's something we'll keep a watching brief on. To return to the chase, I admire Victoria getting back on the horse, right? Hanscom makes 71, bats with Harper, who had a bad incident with a ball hitting him recently as well. He's returned well from that, making 42. Kellaway, 29. They just do enough, but immediately before stumps, Perry and O'Neill both dropped, and they're both capable batters.
And that's the key. They're all-rounders, really.
These days. In Shield level, they are, So they both fall to Ian Carlisle, playing his 3rd game, 24-year-old seamer. It sounds like he should be playing like left-back for Dulwich Hamlet with a name like that, Ian Carlisle. But that goes bang-bang. So, as you said, 69 runs they needed, but they didn't make it happen. And
I'm thinking Ian Callan. I'm thinking Mad Dog. Mad Dog Callan. Maybe Mad Dog Carlisle can be his nickname.
Hopefully he can become a man-cutter like the Mad Dog was.
Take him off at the non-strikers.
Let's do it. So next week, Tassie have South Australia to finish. So I don't know whether they're guaranteed to make the final. I suspect they probably have locked it up, claiming full points, outright points from where they were already on top of the ladder. So very strong possibility. We're going to be, well, not we, but the Bellerive Oval will host the Sheffield Shield final. And Jeff, and that is where we're going to end our conversation today.
That's it.
We've got quite a bit coming up. Just to recap, we've got a story time that we recorded at the Albert Ground like a fortnight ago, which fell through the cracks. So that's the next episode. Cam and I will do the preview for Dharamshala. You and I will do the preview for Christchurch, and we'll be running dailies side by side through that busy week. There will be another story time that drops with all things being equal. We've got to work on this. Out the back of the Test match, a couple of interviews we're planning on doing in Christchurch. We're hoping to get an Australian player. Who knows? Who knows? We can't control that. We're going to request to speak to an Australian player. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's the way these things go. A couple of administrators we're keen to get a hold of as well. And, we'll keep ticking over before I go briefly back to Melbourne. We'll do a bit more there, then back to London. And then we'll go back to our previous desks and do as we do.
We'll have a slightly quieter April and May coming up, but we've got a few other pots on the boil for that period of time before we end up at the T20 World Cup in June. There we go. That's the plan. That's our 3-month plan. That is our show. It has been The Final Word, the weekly program. What a season 15, whatever number it was. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, thanks to CBUS for sponsoring it. Thanks to you for listening to it, or potentially even watching it. I may get organised enough to put a video up of this. We'll find out.
Or joining patreon.com/The Final Word if you want to be part of our Discord channel and supporting the show financially and all the other bits and bobs. We're going to do a catch-up in Christchurch next week for anyone who is floating about at the second Test match.
If I want to get really high-tech, I could try to put the Fran Drescher AFL thread images into the video. I'm not promising I'm going to do that, but I will investigate doing that.
Okay,
it could happen.
I hope that translates for our Indian audience.
Yeah,
mostly
I'm sure
watching
they'll
us
very
on
much
YouTube.
enjoy that. Yeah, they will.
But maybe they can find the Nanny.
Yeah.
on an Indian streaming service.
Maybe her residuals will go through.
Do you know what they
roof.
can do? They can get NordVPN.
Yeah. And then
they get an account and they can watch it on...
They can watch the 24-hour Nanny channel.
Which is on
one of those
streaming services. Yeah. There you go. It all threads together in the end.
Beautiful.
Has been The Final Word. Season 15, episode 27, I am pretty sure. Adam Collins, Jeff Lemon. Goodbye for now.
See ya.